let's
Get
go right.
over here. We're
Okay.
gonna do our lesson, ha. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna quickly review,
And I've been instructed not to say anything, just telling y'all.
okay. So, just to refresh your memory, since it's been a couple of weeks, Moses at the end of his life stood at the end of the Torah, at the end of Deuteronomy, on the mountain before he's about to die, and he presents the Israelites with a choice, a dialectic, a blessing and a curse. Like Adam and Eve, who did not choose life, Israelites, they already knew we're gonna do what was right in their own eyes. Like we too did do what is right in our own eyes, and we too die, but we all have that choice. And we go back to the Garden of Eden. I'm going to quickly go through this. Of course, the tree of life represents light and blessing, or the favor of God, fruitfulness, and the nearness, the very presence of God, as opposed to going off the path to the tree of knowledge of good and evil, leads inevitably to death, darkness, curse, famine, scarcity, separation from God, and abandonment by God. This is what doing what is right in our own eyes leads to. Whether it is an eternal going off that path and death, and spiritual death as well, or whether it's a daily decisions going off and doing what is right in our own eyes and going away far from God and separating ourselves from God. And that's why we're talking about seeking God in everyday life. And then John 14:6, Jesus says that he came to reverse the curse.
I'd say one thing, I'm sorry, I thought we had changed this. I didn't like the way we wrote this, so I'm just gonna say it's real, where it said, it Meredith read it this way, but I meant to change this, where it says abandonment by God. God does not abandon you. What we meant by that is, what God does is he'll give you over to your own desires.
Right.
And we call that the abandonment and wrath of God.
Really,
where he
you're
finally says, I'm gonna
abandoning
give you
him.
what, so I didn't like I meant to change that. That's not worded well. God doesn't abandon you in that sense.
Right.
But he will give you over to your own desires, which is what we call his abandonment. And I meant to refer more to the abandonment and wrath there, not just that he just randomly abandons you because he just woke up in the wrong side of the bed that day or something.
In fact, he dies to bring you back.
Yeah. The idea is always to bring you back on the path, to change your path. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Meredith, before I've been pondering on that, you never focus on, there were two trees in the Garden of Eden, the tree of life and the tree of good.
And you didn't draw the trees.
Everybody, in our society would know about the tree of good and evil, but they never talk about the tree of life. And I think it's a great opening, because I think everybody would say, in the Garden of Eden, there was this, you always hear about taking the bite out of the apple. And
Yeah.
and it just opens up a greint segue. Well,
That's a good point.
There's a tree of life, there were two trees in there.
That's right.
And it just opens up a segue because, I've never really focused on that till we did this lesson. I'm like, it just is an easy opening for most anybody. Because everybody knows.
And you're so good at that, Stacey, because you're like, you engage people so quickly, like.
I haven't used it, but I've thought about it, I've pondered on it, because
That is a
I
good
never
example.
thought until we did this lesson, I said, there were two trees there, we never hear about the tree of life.
Yeah.
But everybody, even the most non-religious person knows about the
Tree.
They know the apple has
Taking
been.
a bite of the
Yeah.
apple,
Taking a
that's,
bite of the apple.
everybody talks about the
I was
apple.
gonna go get my DNT drug screen and physical done, and on my job, for their logo for the doctor's office is an apple.
An apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Yeah, but after become, more religious and everything, it's got me mixed emotions about that apple now.
Yeah.
I got mixed
That's
emotions about it.
so true.
Well, I don't know, I need to look at this as an urban legend or reality, but of course, Apple Computer, what is it?
Yeah, the
It's an apple with a bite out of it.
Yeah, that, like on an
The
apple.
urban legend is, they're talking about the garden.
It's
They've
the
been, I don't know,
temptation,
but
it's the
that is the urban
temptation.
legend, and that's what that is.
Okay, let me quickly
Maybe-
go
I got
through
a
this
theory on that one, I
review.
can tell you later.
I missed that.
So
All these years
Jesus
I've read
says
this
that
about-
he is the way, the truth, and the life. We know Jesus reverses the physical curse by conquering death. Therefore, he thanked the tree of life, and he reverses the spiritual curse, bringing us back into the family. We also remember in Revelation 22, the very end, the last chapter of the Bible, we see that tree of life. We see that Jesus is the water. He said he was the water of life. He's the tree of life for the healing of the nations. Jesus is the light of the world. There's no more need for the sun, right? Because Jesus is the light of the world, and through him, we will be in God's presence. The attributes of the Messiah are the attributes of the tree of life. Jesus is the source of life. He brings us into God's presence. He brings healing to the nations, which is the Great Commission. And now that's what we do. Now that we are part of the family, we are bringing healing to the nations. Isn't that awesome to be able to participate in that?
One relationship at a time.
So, I want y'all to watch this video y'all saw a few weeks ago, but with a different radar, I guess. Listening to the words differently. When we watched it the second time, we were struck by the upside down kingdom.
Today's subtitle is
The upside down.
The Upside Down Kingdom.
So,
All right.
There's this beautiful poem. It's in the book of Isaiah.
The city of Jerusalem has just been destroyed by Babylon, a great kingdom in the north. And all of these Jewish people, they've been sent away into exile, but a few remained in the city. And they're left wondering, what just happened? Has our God abandoned us?
Right, because Jerusalem was supposed to be the city where God would reign over the world to bring peace and blessing to everyone.
Now Isaiah had been saying that Jerusalem's destruction was a mess of Israel's own making. They had turned away from their God, become corrupt, and so their city and their temple were destroyed.
Yeah, everything seems lost.
But the poem goes on. There's a watchman on the city walls. And far out on the hills, we see a messenger, and he's running towards the city. He's running, he's shouting, good news. And Isaiah says, how beautiful on the mountains are the feet of those who bring good news.
Beautiful feet?
Yes, the feet are beautiful because they're carrying a beautiful message.
What's the message?
That despite Jerusalem's destruction, Israel's God still reigns as king, and that God himself is going to one day return to this city, take up his throne, and bring peace.
And the watchmen sing for joy because of the good news that their God still reigns.
Now in the New Testament, we find this same phrase, the good news. It's the Greek word euangelion, and it's also sometimes translated with the word gospel.
And so when Christians say, do you believe the gospel, they mean, do you believe the news?
But not just any news. In the Bible, this phrase is always about the announcement of the reign of a new king.
I'm gonna pause that just because to me that's so. Oh, I thought you were looking for us. Now announcing and. I'm pausing that because I think it's a way of you to check to make sure you're not redefining or softening the gospel. And I don't want to get deep into this, but just the reason I say that is evangelion, I'm saying it right. Yeah, it means good news. We always hear it good news, and then a lot of times I don't like using phrases like that that are English, that are too general, that now after 2,000 years we've read things into. It's like, I say that a lot about the way we use certain words now that don't really carry the meaning that were in the Bible. Anyway, so my point is, sometimes when we say gospel, you need to ask somebody, can you define that? Because I'm telling you, Oprah Winfrey defines that word very different than you would, and even just various churches define it very different. Anyway, my point is, it was a specific meaning, and it wasn't just good news is not, God came here to make you moral. Good news was an announcement of the king. So if your gospel is not king-centered, you might have something wrong with your gospel. If your gospel is about your feelings or how you put, or even your moral character, that's not what the gospel is. Those things are downstream of the gospel, but it's not what the gospel is. The gospel is a new king has arisen. Put your loyalty here. Paul tells you what the gospel is. How does he define it?
that Jesus died for our sins according to the scriptures, that he was buried, and that he rose on the third day according to the scriptures.
And what's the point of that? He has now taken his rightful position as the one you were to place your loyalty to. He is the king. That's so, in other words, so kingship needs to be in your understanding of the gospel, because that's what the word means, or it has that connotation.
And in the New Testament, the Gospels use this phrase to summarize all of Jesus' teachings. They say that he went about proclaiming the good news of God's kingdom.
So Jesus saw himself as the messenger, bringing the news that God reigns.
Yes, but the way that he described God's reign, it surprised everybody. I mean, think, a powerful, successful kingdom, it needs to be strong, able to impose its will, able to defeat its enemies. But Jesus said the greatest person in God's kingdom was the weakest, the one who loves and who serves the poor. And he said that you live under God's reign when you respond to evil by loving your enemies and forgiving them and seeking peace. This is an upside down kingdom.
There's the upside down kingdom.
Now, Jesus also said that this kingdom was arriving with him.
Yeah, so for example, there's this really interesting story where there's a high-ranking Roman officer, and he comes to Jesus begging him to heal his servant. And he even calls Jesus his Lord, acknowledging that Jesus is his authority. Jesus praises this man for recognizing what no one else yet had, that not only was Jesus announcing God's kingdom, he was the king.
And so the word gets out that this Jewish man from Galilee is talking and acting like he's the king of Israel. He's appointing 12 disciples, which are an image of Israel's 12 tribes. He's healing people, forgiving people their sins.
And all of this so threatened Israel's leaders that they finally decided to have him killed. And Jesus let them.
Yeah, which is a weird thing to do if you're trying to become king.
That's right, but for Jesus, this is what had to happen. Jesus saw the sin and the devastation of his people Israel as just one small part of the entire human condition. How all humanity has rebelled against God, resulting in the tragedy and devastation of our whole world. And so how is God going to bring his reign over such a world? Jesus believed it would be through an act of sacrificial love for his enemies. This is why in the Gospels, Jesus' crucifixion is depicted as his enthronement as the King of the Jews.
Yeah, he receives a crown. He also receives a robe.
He's exalted up, not onto a throne, but onto the cross.
How beautiful are the feet that bring good news.
And the good news now is that Jesus has defeated death and that he reigns as king, that he's dealt with our sin and corruption himself, and that he's conquered it with his life and with his love.
And then Jesus sends his followers to go out and keep announcing this good news of the upside down kingdom.
And to invite everyone to give their allegiance to him, the king who defeated death with his love.
Thanks.
We so tritely, I don't want to get too far off on this either, this is not exactly where we're going with that video, but we so tritly hear the words, Jesus, yet while we were sinners, Christ died for us. We just love that verse. And it sounds so good, and I think we have no clue what that really means. What that means is that true love, not all the love that we call it, not all the ways we water love down and we change it, we put our feelings and all that crap. True love demands that you sacrifice what you don't want to give up. And if you can't look at your children if you have children, or a spouse if you have a spouse, or someone you love, if there's, to truly define love, you will give up something that you refuse to give up. Because at some point you decide the other person or the king is worth it, and you're not. And if you want to know, do you love your brother or do you love God? And what did Jesus have to give up? He said in the garden, I wish this did not have to happen. If there's any way this will pass from me, please do, but nevertheless your will be done. He was being forced to give up what he refused. The one thing he would not give up, he is the king. He could demand that you not spit on him, that you not take his clothes, that you not put him on a cross. He could demand that. But the ultimate, and every archetypal story tells you that, whether you're watching what am I trying to say, the Marvels or all that, what does it tell you? That ultimately, Spider-Man does this, ultimately the hero must sacrifice. Because the greatest good and the greatest love is always defined by sacrifice, ultimately. So.
And I would say everybody has something different.
Yeah.
That-
What you're holding on to that you won't give up.
Yeah.
Watching this
Sorry.
channel,
I'm convicted of that, what I hold on to. So Jesus proclaimed the upside down kingdom.
Last thing I'll say. I won't go too deep. Just know, y'all know the story of the rich young ruler. There was one thing he wouldn't give up. And so what did Jesus say? Oh, give that up. So some goober heads say, oh, the only way we're in the kingdom is if we sell everything. No, that's not the point of the story. The point is that's the one thing. That guy was religious. He went to Sunday school every Sunday. He might have gone to 3 or 4 churches. He might have done all kind of wonderful things. But Jesus looked at him and said, you have said, I know your heart. There's one thing you won't give up. And Jesus says, give me that. Who knows if he would have even asked him? He may have said, I don't know. That's me just reading it. I don't know if he would have actually made him. But he said, do that. And the guy walked away. So there's something in every person's heart that you will not give up. At some point in your life, God's going to ask you to do it.
I think that's a good thought-provoking question to go through this week. So what do I hold on to? And then God grant me the wisdom and the ability to see it and the strength to give it up.
You know, Paul said,
And what's so funny is when you
therefore-
do that, whose heart has changed?
Probably mine.
Yeah, it's not whoever the object is or the thing is. It's not that. It's the enormous releasing of bitterness and anxiety and anger and feelings that are
And
in you.
irritation.
But it's you that has changed when you do that. I struggle with this, y'all. But I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's perfect.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop talking.
Carrying over that journey from Sunday.
I'm sorry.
When you talked about the rich young ruler.
That's right.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it all week. That's where it came
Back
from.
to you. Yeah.
I've been thinking about that all week.
I used it as an example that, God does not always pursue. He will stop. That there is so, you know, what we were talking about at that time was that whole idea of, what is it, the connection before correction thing and stuff, and I was giving you that as an example, that was actually correction before connection on the part of Jesus, and there was no following. He didn't follow the guy, he didn't run after him, he didn't try to take him out to coffee and apologize for hurting his feelings afterwards. He just let that guy go. And this is somebody that's like 99% in line with biblical morality. He just missed something, and Jesus knew what he missed. He confronted him, he hit him between the eyes with what he missed, and he didn't chase him. He let the guy retreat and walk away. And I think the point that I was trying to make was sometimes we can try to make surrendering to God taste too good to people. And so it's like, it's not, so we're inviting them to let go of the bitter taste of what God requires, of the changing of their heart. And we make it friendly, non-adversarial, but it is adversarial. It is hard.
And it
The
is
Bi-
friendly too.
Huh?
And
It's not though. It's hard.
At the same time, it's friendly enough that who is a friend, you are a friend if you lay your life down for, you know, that
Yeah.
Jesus said that's what a true
The
friend
door's open.
is.
He doesn't.
But the Bible has a very hard, unforgiving quality of revealing, our problems.
At the same time as forgiving,
Re-
it's so
re- re-
crazy.
revealing,
It's the upside
revealing
down.
our problems, our inadequacies, our rottenness, our brokenness. All that hurts, right? It hurts me to see that. It's not a good experience. And
God
we can chase
see
people
that.
down to try to
So
make
freaking
that.
obvious that.
And yeah, Eddie and I had a great discussion. This was
Yeah.
Monday this week.
Can I say something to that? I think you're onto something with the whole heart issue, but when I see the rich young ruler, and I could be wrong, I approach it skeptically, but I see that as he was doing everything on the outside, and Jesus saw through him and was like, hey, you're not fully doing it. You know, I think that so many times.
You're not
we
free
just-
to wing it, is that what you said?
You're not free to wing it, no, but it was a hard issue for a lot of people. Fully doing it.
I really thought that's what you
And then
said.
I think we go through the motions, and I think that applies with Christians today, and kind of to your point, Eddie, we make it so sweet that they're like, oh, and it's just this feeling, and it's not something that is an internal change, and it's not comfortable. It's like when you need a procedure, it's gonna hurt, but it's gonna make you better.
That's
you know?
actually an example I use. Surgeon, what a surgeon
It's
does.
you, and he even, the Lord even says something to that extent. But I think with the rich young ruler, Jesus immediately saw through him, which I cannot do. He saw through him and was
That's
like,
always my
Yeah.
my carefulness there is, I always put that, when we were talking, we actually talked about that too, is the one thing Jesus had, the superpower Jesus had that we don't have is he knows the heart fully. So we always have to be careful that we're misreading at times.
But I don't think we have to. I think we can let the distance between the individual and God be its own testimony. Because we're here today to make ourselves more like Jesus. If that person wants to be more like Jesus, they will overcome the distance. I don't have to solve that puzzle. I don't have to solve that equation. They have to solve it. They have to white flag that problem.
But wouldn't it be
They gotta
easier-
surrender.
Wouldn't it be easier for them to see surrender if I practiced surrender and lovingly showed them?
That was sort of the,
I guess
Angie and I
Jesus
were
was
talking
wrong
about
by
this.
not taking that guy out for coffee afterwards. So I guess that's what I'm saying is, I think there is a problem. I don't think it's a problem to do what you're saying.
Right.
But I think we're inviting them past their problem.
Okay.
We're almost inviting them, and I'm thinking in terms of like jujitsu now, but like
Yeah,
if I come straight at somebody and they're like guarding me with their feet and hands, I wanna go around them. I don't wanna go through the problem, I wanna
Okay.
circumnavigate the problem. So being so kind and so non-adversarial invites them around the legs, around the hands, around the guard. But that guard is there for a reason, because it's the authenticity of the surrender that it produces. And Jesus didn't want the church full of people who weren't surrendered. He wanted it, and that's where me and you connected Sunday, is now we've got churches full of people who haven't really surrendered to God at all. They've just somehow navigated the guard of God. They've jumped around his legs, jumped around his arms, and they've jumped into this close relationship with something that's not even really him, because they never faced it. They never faced it. It never forced them to give up the part of themselves.
So
That's
what
why I
you're
was thinking
saying
on love.
is,
Yeah, go ahead.
just to make sure, because I wanna make sure that I'm hearing what you're saying. So what you're saying is that by circumnavigating it, we're not going through the issue to make them, so that they see full surrender.
Yeah, they're not experiencing full surrender. They're getting around. They're like, it's non-adversarial. It's like we handed them a fruit basket, and the fruit basket of non-surrender, and they're like, oh my gosh, I've got this fruit basket. Now I'm a Christian.
Can I add one thing before you go?
Okay.
Can I add one thing? I meant to say that, I can't remember the word you used. And Eddie and I had a wonderful conversation on Monday, and the one thing, and I went more to, you're right, and yes, everything you're saying is absolutely correct. The question turns into, in my view, to some degree, it turns into technique in the relationship. And the one thing when you described the rich young ruler, how did you describe it? You didn't say Jesus attacked him, you said Jesus, I forget how you said something, and I would actually push back on one statement. What did Jesus actually do to him? He didn't attack, he didn't even point out his sin. He asked him a simple question. He said, okay, he actually didn't even point out his sin. He didn't tell him you're prideful or you love your money. He didn't say any of that. We read all that into it based on what he did.
Yeah.
What he actually simply did is said, go and sell all your stuff. He simply gave him a commandment. He didn't criticize him. He didn't run him down. He didn't confront him with his sin. He didn't do any of that. What he did is he knew his heart. That's why I say you gotta be careful, because Jesus knew his heart. Jesus knew what his hang-up is, and he didn't confront him with his sin at all. He just looked at him and said,
There's one thing
sell
you
it.
lack.
There's one thing you lack, sell it. And what he did is he gave it back to the person and says, will you bow the knee to me? Give up the one thing you're holding on to, the one thing you said you're holding on to. Or not you said, he knew his heart. So that's the only pushback I would say is, Jesus didn't attack him. He didn't confront him with his sin. He didn't smash him in the head. He knew his heart. He said, you're lacking one thing, will you give it up? He always gives you a choice. That's what I mean. He doesn't force you, he gives you a choice. We don't know what happened to that. There are some scholars that believe that was Mark. Y'all know that? If you look this up, there's some scholars, and it varies totally, there's no way to know for sure, because Mark was rich, and there's some reasons why they think that could have been Mark. And again, there's no way to know that for sure, but there's scholars who believe that.
He fronts them up, bro. So Jesus says, he tells Jesus, he says, all these have I kept from my youth up.
Right.
Now, when Jesus heard these things, he said unto him, yet lackest thou one thing.
Right, there's one thing you lack.
I mean, if that's not,
Yeah, that's
I
not
know I'm
me.
ejected my phone, but that's like, I mean, to me, that's a hit.
Oh, it is. I mean, it's
That's taking a
Direct.
left hook.
It's
I mean,
direct
like,
and it's honest.
yet lack thou one thing. So, I mean, like, it's not, he didn't give him time to come to terms with it. He hit him.
I think that was compassionate, actually.
Yeah, I look at that like, he gave him time, because what he did, he said, will you change your heart and act? Because the guy couldn't sell it in one day. If he was gonna even do what Jesus told him, it'd take weeks for him to sell all this stuff.
Yeah,
What if he
lack
really did
thou
that?
one thing.
So he wasn't demanding an action at that moment, he was demanding a heart change, which is what God always does.
His kindness.
And he was
leads us
leaving
to
the door open.
repentance.
Oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
And
You
I-
raised your hand and then go, I'm sorry, go back.
It's
I'm
his
sorry.
kindness that leads us to repentance. It's his love that changes hearts.
Ooh, say that again.
His kindness leads us to repentance. I don't know where that's at, but it's somewhere in the New Testament.
I have
Paint that
that,
on something for me?
I have that in my phone, because Chuck Missler used to always say, he said, Chuck Missler used to always say this, and it kind of changed the way I thought about this. And I have it rolled in my phone once a month.
I
Jesus
think-
does not draw with his judgment. He ultimately draws us with his love. That's not right. I have it in my phone, I read it every single month. I need to read that, but it's a similar concept, is that God's judgment is not what Jesus uses to draw you,
No.
although it's real and it will happen.
That heart,
Uh-huh.
like, it's
Y'all
like
keep
a
talking, I'm gonna
parent,
look.
if there's something in the New Testament talks about, like, do not lead your children into rebellion,
Don't
like
exasperate it.
if you have like an angry father that's just yelling at you all the time, like, my dad was like this, like, just always angry at me. I felt like nothing I did was wrong. Nothing I did was right. And, that pushed me in further away. Like, it made my heart harder. It made me rebel. And that was my choice. But then when I met the love of God, that's what softened my heart and
That's what our
Changed my
friend,
heart.
that's what our friend Jolyn had, who had an abusive grandmother, and that's all he knew from any, parent figure in his life, that's all he knew. So it was not that he didn't know that Jesus died for his sins, but he didn't know what love was. He didn't know how to even accept love.
Yeah, that's like me with, when I was with my ex and everything, where she basically did the same thing, saying nothing I ever doing good enough or anything like that, but instead of like hardening my heart towards that, like shutting down on rebellion, it actually opened up my heart up to Jesus and everything, where I, fully accepted him as my Lord and Savior.
Can I use our children as an example?
Sure.
I was thinking
I
about.
say that, I don't know what you're about to say.
I was thinking about connection before correction, with our children. My children, of course, when I'm disciplining them, I can be harsh to them.
Oh, I gotta say, I think one other thing too is, we don't know if Jesus didn't know him. He may have fully connected,
Well,
he may
I
have been
think
following
he
him for
did.
months.
I think
We
he
don't
did
know.
know him if
We don't
he-
really know anything about that guy.
He said one thing you like.
Especially if it's Mark. Yeah, how do you know that?
I think he knew him.
He knew he was rich.
I think he had a connection with
He
him.
had to have some sort of connection. It's a small town, they all follow each other.
That's
But
I mean, he's also the creator of the entire cosmos.
So he always has a connection.
He always has a connection.
Good
Like, I just
point.
wanna throw that out there. Like,
That's
there's
what
always
he
some
knew the
sort of
heart.
connection, okay? 'Cause, like,
We
you know,
don't.
like,
Because we
our
don't have the
relatives.
because we don't have that superpower, we have to have a connection.
At the same time, he was not affirming his,
Yes,
True.
I think we're putting all kinds of pressure on ourselves to have a connection before we can witness. And what I'm telling you is.
You're right about that, we should do
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
you're right.
That's
That's
too
I
far.
mean,
We
not
have to back
necessarily,
off. We have
Stacy
to
does
back
it
off.
with his car, oil changes all the time. I don't think we're doing that.
Well,
I don't think we're doing that.
Well, we have to be
I
careful
think
we
you
don't do
can.
that.
I think you can.
Yeah.
I
I
think
think you
because
can.
the whole idea of like preaching on Sunday morning is I go and listen to a guy and I'm getting advice from him every single week. And hopefully he's anticipating to make some type of an impact on me.
And you
But
want
I
a
don't know
personal
Chip
connection.
personally.
Yeah.
I don't even have, if I
Yeah,
walk by him, I wouldn't even
think
expect
that's-
him to know my
How you
name.
address that, I don't.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely, Eddie's right there, you're
Yeah,
right.
we
And we can go
can't,
so far,
we
we
can't
kinda
go
talk
so
about-
extreme into that you can't speak to a person
Yeah.
without having that,
Yeah,
because
you're right.
it's,
And the
because
bad
Jesus-
part is if you do have a connection, if you're not careful, you'll begin valuing the harmony over the truth. And that's the part where you can have a connection and it not lead you to the truth, absolutely.
So what I
Absolutely.
say is back to my children, I love them therefore I discipline them,
Yeah.
right?
Discipline.
I
comes from
hold
your
up
disciple.
truth to them because I love them. I don't really care about their friends. I don't raise up truth to them. Unless
As
they're-
often or as easy, yeah.
I mean, I will if they're my really are good friends, but you know what I'm saying, somebody in their class at school, I don't discipline them, I don't even go and tell them stuff. I try to pull my kids away from them. But if I truly love someone, then I can
Wanna
speak
teach
truth
them.
to them.
I'll
It's
never
like
do
with
that. I'll never do
That's
that.
how we're supposed to view other people.
Disciple is the part of
My
discipline.
conviction is I'm supposed to view other people with love.
Yeah, but like, literally, they teach you in teaching school, your discipline measures are another form of teaching.
Yeah.
As a high school teacher,
That's
if
true.
I don't teach my students to turn their stuff in on time, and one tries to go work for Eddie, he's gonna get fired. Because Eddie's gonna be like, I needed this a week ago, like what, you're fired, you know what I mean? Or like with y'all, and so I'm trying to teach them discipline to do your work, like you might hate it, but like you need to do your work, you need to be respectful, you need, because these are life lessons that
Because you
you
care about
because I
them.
care. And I think that in our society today, love is overused and not used correctly. I think that it's
Amen.
you
I
know,
fully amen that.
because it's an action, not a feeling. And I know growing
Amen.
up and what I did, it's more of a feeling, and that's like my personal struggle. I have to remind myself that's why it's written on my mirror. Thank you for that. And I read it, I'm like, forbearance, patience, like all of this is love. And I think that Eddie, and I think we all have a point, we're all kind of the same way. At some point, you do have to get to the issue and be like, but I do think sometimes you can't just be like that, because sometimes when you're like that and direct, people are gonna be defensive and fight back. So I think that there is a happy medium, and the best way to do that is to be led by God, because God sees everything.
We call that discernment.
Right, it's
You
discernment,
discern
you
the
have to
situation.
discern it, and I think that we're both, I think there's a way that we're both right. I think we're both kind of
Absolutely.
talking about the same thing, and I think it's really interesting and pretty amazing that we can have these discussions, because I don't know where else I can have this discussion, and like,
That's why I love this class.
and not feel like you're wrong.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So like at school with my kids and with my own kids, like if they do something, the way I correct them and connect with them at school and at home is I, pull them aside and I'm like, alright, I love you, tell me what happened. They always wanna tell me what the other kid did.
Why, it's
And
their
then I
fault.
say, okay, what did you do?
Yeah.
And then, what did you do?
That is
And then
100%
finally,
the way I think.
yes, so then it's like, getting to the heart issue, what did you do? Why did you do that? Should you have done that? What happened because you did that? Now what should you do? And they're usually like, I should go ask them to
I'm not as
forgive me.
structured as you are, but that's exactly how I approach it.
Yeah.
I never, and the same thing with my
It's-
coaching, when
it's
my
trying
sons
to
would
teach
get in
them
the
to,
car,
like, what
when
you
my
doing
sons would get in the
wrong?
car,
Yeah,
when
yeah.
my sons would get in the car and
Ownership,
complain
yeah.
about the umpire, I would get angry and I would stop them. You cannot affect or have any impact on what that umpire did. Why didn't you hit the ball instead of strike out? Why didn't you do that? I didn't say that to him. I'm saying my point is, it's the same thing with you. That's just the umpire situation. Same thing with that. I was the same way. You cannot and are not responsible for someone else's actions, but you are always responsible for yours. So I would never allow my kids to start telling me what everybody else did wrong. I'm like you. It was you can't affect that, and they will be justified. Their parents might get them or whatever. It's about you and your act, and that's the same thing with feelings. When someone else raises a horrible feeling in you, you're giving them enormous power that they actually don't have. That's actually bitterness, anger, maybe it's what's the word I'm looking for? You're hurt, you're angry, or you have a lower self-esteem, or there's something happening in you that allows that other person to have control over you. So you have to be very careful, and generally that ultimately leads to bitterness. And we all know bitterness will destroy you. So anytime that happens, because I discipline my kids the same way, my first response is, what's happening in your heart, and are you letting someone do something you should never give them power to do? And that's what it is. And I go back to Jesus. With the love situation. Do you think he was in that garden going, man, I can't wait to do this cross thing? Of course not. He literally decided to do the very thing that would hurt him the most. In this case, as the man, Christ Jesus, it was to give up his life in a horrible, ridiculous way. So the greatest love is always preceded or combined with the greatest sacrifice. So if you think love is getting together and enjoying Christmas dinner, it is not. Love is the greatest love is the time it hurts like crap and you do it anyway. I'm so off.
I think if you draw a line on the board and like label one side of that line like the most apologetic correction,
You're gonna be my
connection.
example. I say it's a bell curve.
Yeah.
And you have people at both extremes.
Well,
Yeah.
and then I think you on the other side of that line, you have like the most friction-driven connection possible.
Beautiful mountain.
I think what you can do is put a line on both extremes, like come into the middle and put both extremes. On the outside of that line is destructive on both sides. And on the inside of that line is somewhere where you wanna be. That's the constructive zone.
Yeah.
But you also have to realize there's value in the constructive zone on both sides of the equation.
That's perfect.
Because if you're too kind and you don't enable there to be some friction for the person, you're overriding their surrender. And what you're gonna have is a convert that's not surrendered to the cross.
But that's not your
Because it's too
responsibility.
kind, it's not your responsibility.
That's not your responsibility.
They have to, and Jesus needs them to surrender, and they need to surrender to the truth.
Like if
They
you have to
need
speak it
some
at
hardness
point.
there that you're not apologizing for or trying to deliver a fruit basket over the top of, right? But at the same time, it can't be so extreme that you cross that line into the destructive zone, and you can't be so connection-driven, whatever. On the other side of that zone is the connection-driven connection where you compromise the integrity of the truth for the sake of the connection. That's the other side of the zone.
I'm gonna tell you, because what you're describing is, I had the same, I think about this whole week.
It's two
It's a bell
different
curve.
sides of the zone.
Absolutely, and in a bell curve, of those who know, I put 95%, but I think a bell curve is technically defined as 99%, the rest is on the edges, but maybe, or 97% confidence level. Anybody know statistics in here? Okay, I think it's a 97% confidence level, nobody cares about this. Where's our engineer,
I don't think, I mean, in OB, we have 10%
Oh,
off
okay,
the
okay, that doesn't matter. All right, anyway, doesn't matter. Exactly what Eddie's saying, you've got a bell curve, most people fall within the 95% inside this bell curve, and the bell curve here, and using our example, that's what you have the person who is radically on this end of harmony, I'm gonna love them to death, I don't really care, I don't wanna hear the truth, and that's what,
That's
harmony,
me.
harmony.
That's probably
And
me.
at the extreme level, you have harmony so much that you're flat out misrepresenting God.
That's when the people dress up as Woody and give up.
Yeah, good point. And then out here, you've got the judgment. I'm gonna smack them in the face. I don't give a crap what happens to all the collateral damage that happens
But you've
around
got a
it.
constructive, destructive line where you've crossed into
And I
driving
suspect,
them away
Eddie,
from the
I
cross.
suspect, Eddie, you're
instead
somewhere
of
right
to-
here. You're still under the bell curve, but you're this end.
Yeah.
And I suspect most females in general, I hate to be that general, but most females are gonna wander somewhere over here.
Yeah, right there.
And we have, and here's what we're,
And I think
what are we
Jesus,
describing?
I think what we see in the Bible in the New Testament is Jesus in the center.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
I think
agree with that.
I think he's perfectly balanced because he has the ability to front people up with their failure while at the same time, it says that guy cried when he
Yeah.
went away.
Because he
didn't
heard the
go-
truth.
He didn't go away with a hard heart. He
But
got
he
hit.
didn't
He
cry
got
though
hit
because Jesus attacked him. He cried because he did speak the truth in love and gave him the choice. And the guy cried because he knew he couldn't.
He couldn't
do
make
it.
the choice. He couldn't climb
Yeah.
the mountain, but he didn't
Right.
make the mountain easier
Yeah,
to
we
climb.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless
Yeah.
he's smart.
Yeah.
If those scholars are right, he's smart.
I mean, we really
He
don't know.
actually did, but we don't know that. I keep saying we don't know that. But, there
But
are
we don't know
scholars-
either
Yeah.
way.
We
We
don't
don't
know.
know.
The
We don't know
verses
really
that
do.
are after
I
that,
hope.
remember, Jesus comes to them, it's about the
Who then
camel
can be
going to
saved?
the eye
Yeah.
of the
Who
needle.
then can be
And it's
saved?
just that
The
point,
rich person.
it's what they all like, that's impossible, we know that's impossible.
But what does he say?
But he said,
With
with God,
God,
there's nothing
it is
that's
possible.
impossible.
So there's an idea there that
Good
guy's
point.
not even saved.
Yeah, could be.
Because
Could
he
be.
immediately goes and drafts the salvation and starts
Yeah.
talking about
And
how he had all the head knowledge and maybe had no heart knowledge.
Right.
Maybe it wasn't just trying to correct him on one thing or getting back in line with one thing. He was off on, he never crossed
Unless he
Jordan.
is Mark and he did, unless he is Mark and he did that exact thing. And ultimately
And
gave
back
up
to
his
the
life.
Russell Brand
Maybe,
example.
we don't know that though. I
Your
keep saying we
Russell-
don't really know that.
Your Russell Brand example, look where he's gone to now, it took all of that, who knows what, God was
One-
using
one
in his
thing-
life.
You know why I listen to people like Russell Brand some, and I listen to even Jordan Peterson with his weird stuff, and where they are on the continuum, I can't answer. Well, now Russell Brand I can. Listen to Russell Brand, you ain't gonna find anything that's not hardcore evangelical, theological. It's a crazy what God's done in his life. But a lot of these others, they're somewhere in there, and I can't be the judge completely of their heart, obviously. Anyway, I have to believe, because I'm a sinner. I struggle. I have hurts. I don't give up the thing God demands until he forces me to. He throws me off a roof to change me. I really believe that. That is what God does, and he disciplines because he loves me. And that kind of stuff changes your heart. It forces you to review, and it forces you to change. Why? Because you can only deal with your own feelings. You can't deal with somebody else all the time. You have to be the right person, and then you have to use discernment. All that's true. I have to believe when I look at Russell Brand, and I look at, I don't know, all these folks. I have to believe that I have a God that is like the hound of heaven who will search and seek and will try until the nth degree to bring me back home, and that human beings. That's why I'm also not a Calvinist, because I believe that I have to believe, based on my own sinfulness and my own life, that I serve a God who absolutely loves me and will allow me to come back to him even when I fail. And that people out there are never fully gone until they're actually gone.
I think the test though,
I believe that about God.
the test comes at the end, because at the end of that, he says, how do you know this? Is anyone who's given up his life or home or anything is mine. It's get back to Luke 9:23. If anyone would come after me, must deny himself, take up his cross daily. So you can see people. You look at the example of Russell Brand, he's given it all. It's not about me. If you see people that are still about me, you kind of have to wonder, hey, all this that's going on, it's still about me. It's about what I gotta give up. And till you get to that point, it's not about me, it's about, I'm a slave to Christ. I mean, that's
I'm a slave.
kind of the point where you gotta look at the individuals, and where are they in the spectrum? Anyway.
So we gotta close. My question, it's easy to look at a rich young ruler and say.
I'm laughing because there's a video I really want to watch. We still didn't get it.
He has to give up money, but what is it that I have to give up? I think we all can ask ourselves, what is it that I have to give up?
Should that be our homework this week?
I'm gonna write this on
Teacher
it.
me?
Some folks know, that's what the final exam is. The final exam is God grabbing your heart. Eddie, there's something in there. Art, CB, there's something in there that you're the rich young ruler, and God says, if you really wanna be my disciple, and you wanna sell out, there's something about you must give up. Do it.
Paul said.
What is it? So the final
Paul
exam
said
is
it was-
identify it and do it.
Paul said it was his own pride, because he said, because of these surpassingly great revelations, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, a thorn in the flesh was given to me, a messenger of Satan to torment me. And 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. I will delight in weaknesses and insults and hardships and persecutions, because when I am weak,
He is strong.
he is strong.
We
We all have something we can give up.
I hate to say this, it's not only, I'm being probably a little too extreme here, but I'm gonna say it that way, we only really grow when it hurts.
Yeah.
That's my life experience. Yeah, there's little growth, there's a little happy time. You grow when it hurts. You grow when it's hard. You grow when you're able to be a man and do what you refuse to do. Because by God, I will not put myself in that position again. And God says, oh yes, you will for me.
That's like even though we
And if you
walk down
refuse
there-
long enough, he's gonna make you. That's what he did to me.
How beautiful are the feet. And I
I
feel
say
like,
the older you get, the more they come, and it becomes more and more. I'm a lot more humble than I was 20 years ago.
Oh, I am so much more, because I realize my own weaknesses and my own stupidity.
Yeah, I'm just,
I think God is
I mean,
working
it's
in
like-
our lives that way right now. He's
Say,
asking us.
look what they get to look forward to. They get to look forward to all those.
Yeah, all you young people over here.
Get ready, here they come.
Great praise out there.
Okay, God, y'all, this is great. This is what matters. We're
This is
talking about
iron sharpens iron right here.
It is, and it's just, we gotta figure out how to do this thing. And You have to love correctly. You have to, when God, it's the whole Sermon on the Mount. When Jesus said, you come to me and you give up everything about yourself, and you are a full servant of mine, not my will, but your will be done. There's a lot of meaning to it. It's radical, and we don't like it. Anyway, all right. I'm gonna pray this out here. Dear Lord, thank you so much. Lord, thank you for these believers in this room that come from so many different perspectives and so many different places on the bell curve. And Lord, it reminds me, Paul told us, that's what the body of Christ is. It's a hand, it's a left hand, a right hand, a foot, it's a head, that's the whole point, is we're supposed to come together with our craziness and our radical extreme views, but together, under our love for Jesus Christ, as fellow members, we're supposed to sharpen each other and figure out the right way to accomplish the goal. And it's a simple goal. I want my sheep back. Go get them. That's a goal. The goal's not necessarily to teach them every line item in the Bible. I know that, Lord. The goal's not necessarily to demand that they have every theological issue right, and the goal is not to make sure they feel good all the time. Oh, Lord, the goal is you want them back. Do what it takes. And you know what it's going to take? It's going to take a body of Christ with a right hand and a left hand and a head, and find somebody on this end of the bell curve, somebody on that end of the bell curve, and together we're going to figure out how to get these people back. That's what the Great Commission is, Lord. Golly, this is hard, Lord. Be with us this week. Help us to just surrender and say, we'll do what you want us to do. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. Y'all, this is heavy. This is getting way too
Russell. I think that was a good prayer, Russell.
Thank you, Russell. We're glad you joined